Hey guys, welcome back to another chair sketch video. This week, let's get into it. Let's figure out what concept I'm going to do. I usually just grab anything I can find, start doodling out a solid chair sketch concept. I had this idea this week of doing some sort of hammock style chair. Something with a netting in here, maybe. This is maybe the most crucial part of my chair sketches, the actual idea. I could also do sort of a woven elastic. Kind of thinking about those organization woven things. I forget what are they called. They have the elastic bands woven together. It would be taut and then you'd sit on it for it to form to your body. Kind of like that. Maybe I could do circular. Kind of like the square. I'm also thinking what if that's kind of cool. Also, what if it was like something tied to the base here? Sometimes I have to like go back and look at my old sketches because I feel like I've done them before. I've done so many chairs. I believe this is chair 80. I think this is going to be chair 80. This kind of reminds me of a black hole. Maybe there's some sort of like cushion that's pulling down. I kind of like that. I think maybe we do this, something like this. Alright, so I got my idea now. Let's break open the iPad. Now I do a 10 by 10 inch canvas, 300 DPI for my chair sketches, and I use my custom ballpoint brush course, first things first, let's just rough out the concept here. Sometimes kind of something that I like to do is look at my chair sketches and kind of orient them so that there's a mixture of ones going to the left and going to the right. And I've done the past two going to the left, kind of looking to the left. So I might do this guy looking to the right. For whatever reason, I want to put some sort of sphere right there, but I'm not really too worried about this stage getting it clean or tight, purely just going for general perspective. I might do a little bit of a shallower chair so I can see some more of this underside. Let's clear. Just kind of messing with the stretch and proportion here. I actually kind of like that first rough pass better. One thing I always try to do is sketch the chairs so that I can see that back fourth leg. You know, a lot of chairs sketches, you just see the front three, or the two front ones and the back closest side, but I think it's important to see that fourth leg. It gives the sketch a whole nother dimension. spending some time just getting this layout correct, because it's always bad to do an entire sketch and render it out, color it in, and then realize your perspective was off from the very beginning. This might be a chair where I can't do that third leg. It's seeming to be a little bit of an issue. It's very hidden. Although I could make this some sort of like transparent mesh, so you kind of see a ghosted leg in there. That could be interesting. I almost imagine this hose or this material being like a pantyhose type of material, and kind of wrapping around here. I think we're getting somewhere now. Not liking this intersection. For whatever reason, I kind of want it to be like a much more of a bulbous shape. Maybe it kind of like forms. Maybe there's kind of a secondary. It's getting a little messy in here, isn't it? All right. Let's just turn that opacity down. And then I'll do a nice cleaner or clean layer on top here. I use these move tools quite a bit just to get the perspectives and all that correct. Super helpful. just to lay down a quick ellipse, but not have to worry about if it's actually perfect, because you can kind of tweak it. This tool is the selection tool right here. You can select things and then move, adjust. I'm double tapping, or not double tapping, tapping with 2 fingers to undo. And then the line tool is just draw and hold. And you can get nice, perfect lines. I do this for some things, not everything. Sometimes I like to keep the sketchy lines in, just for fun. Gives a sketch a bit more character. Now, a good way to kind of gauge where this leg meets is if I take my perspective, draw it across. You can already kind of see that I'm maybe a little bit too far. I can kind of cheat it by pulling this guy out a little bit more. But doing the same with the top of here, the top of the seat. Alright, and then this fabric's going to kind of come up here, just like that. It's starting to form, come together here. Let me pull this line down. Also, feel free to add your comments. This is obviously a work in progress, a new platform. If you have any ideas, send them my way. Now I'm adding in kind of the fabric piece that covers it up. Covers up the metal poles. I guess they'd be metal poles or something. turn off this layer. I think I might actually just put a cushion in here. Yeah, I think that looks better. Now right here, I'm just gonna quickly add in a bit of dimension by kind of setting that line down so that kind of looks like there's fabric here wrapping around this pole. Subtle thing, but it gives it so much more dimension. Then the part across. Come in here, do the same thing. Erase that ellipse. Put it in a little bit shallower. Just to add that extra little depth. I almost kind of think that there should be also right in here, I'm kind of drawing in these curves. It's more of a sketch style thing. You wouldn't necessarily see a line there, but it just kind of reiterates the joining of two pipes instead of seeing it as a flat surface. And then right here you might see a little bit of joinery going in there. Alright, I'm going to put some contour lines in. I might do this on a separate layer. I think contour lines are really going to make this chair sketch pop. Let me just clean up some of these lines first. Okay. So contour lines are essentially the light very light lines that help define the form. They contour to the shape. And I'm not doing a great job at it right now. There we go. That's a little better. Let's put some more contour lines going sideways now. And then I'm going to put one underneath just to show that this is raised up. The shadows will help define that as well. I kind of think this leg needs to be moved a little bit. Let's just do this. We'll kind of cheat it here. See what happens. Yeah, I think that looks a little better. Come in here and kind of fix that wonky move that I just did. It's kind of cool that you can just move stuff around like that. One thing with the contour lines I like to do is anytime I do metal rods or pipes, I always just put a half of a ellipse around kind of some sort of center, like, you know, imagine if the apartment was flooded, and so you get these like little water lines around essentially where the center of the legs are. I mean, it's a weird analogy, but I think you guys understand. I'm not too worried about kind of drawing through. Just putting those little ellipses, I think, helps speak a lot to the shape. All right. So I need to, the next step, I might actually, I'm trying to think if I should do the side view right now. I think that's probably good. I'll do the side view right now, so we get all the line work out of the way. So one thing to note, turn on this magnetics here. This helps me keep everything to proportion, to scale, without skewing it. And then, sometimes I turn it off so I can skew it if I think it needs it. You can also flip it. Kind of like I was saying before, how I try to sketch chairs that are different each time. I mean, technically I could easily flip them. Flipping is also a great way to check your perspective. So if it looks good flipped, then it's usually pretty solid perspective. So I'm just centering the chair a little bit, just so I have some room. All right. So for the side view, come in here. Make sure I'm on a new layer here. The side view is also going to help a ton with kind of understanding what's going on down in this bottom section, because currently it's a little bit ambiguous. I'll do a straight line down here for the base. I usually do that first. It gives me some baseline, but I forgot this time. But that's okay, because I can just move it. Rotate it a little bit. Let's clean this up a tad. This one doesn't have to be super clean. It's just a much smaller view. Not the main focus, more of a accent piece. I might just put a little bit of a round in there so you can kind of imagine that there's something pushing through, like this cushion. Maybe I should put the cushion down here too. Does that look good? I'll leave it. I'm going to put the contour line going this way. This is more of a stylistic thing, especially on the orthographic or the side view. All right. And then it's encroaching a bit on the actual chair. So I'm going to see if I can move this around. This chair's a little bit different, a little bit more difficult to place on the page, just because, normally you have this shape, like a chair, and then you can put your side view right here. But this week we have this shape, and the side view are pretty close to the chair. But that's okay. We can make it work. Maybe I'll make this a tad smaller. All right. Next step, block in the shape. This is mainly just to select the actual chair itself. I'll pick a hard airbrush, and I'll just pick a medium gray. It honestly doesn't even matter what color you choose, just as long as it's something. And make sure on a new layer, put the new layer under the line layer, and then just start blocking in. This is so that I can come back and select just the chair and add highlights, shadows, colors, everything. Oh, one thing I was going to do is add some sort of reinforcing strip around these holes. I imagine that they would have some sort of fabric piece that would kind of reinforce this area. So I'm just going to come in and lightly add that in. This could also be a nice little spot for some color. Some color. Accent color on the fabric, maybe. Alright. Press and hold to select a color. Going back to my airbrush now to continue. Just blocking in. I'm really just going around the outside because the inside is super easy to come in and fill in. Just like coloring when you're a kid. kind of feel like this chair looks like a black hole. I wonder if there's some sort of theme I could pull from that. It'd be really cool to do some sort of printed grid, although that would be quite intensive to do some sort of time and space warping grid. Alright, so got the outline down. Just going to color in the big part here. All right. Let's do some blocking in for the side view as well, just really quickly. All right. So now that we have it blocked out, see, I can easily just tap on it and say select. And then, you know, whatever I want, I can color it in. I can do some highlights. And it stays on the page, or on the chair. Of course, we don't want to do that, so we'll just undo. Now, next step is to add in our highlights and our shadows. So I'll take the soft airbrush this time. Instead of the hard, I'll do the soft. I'll just take a white all the way and kind of think about how the light's shining down. So I usually have the light coming in from the front of the chair. And so this area is going to get bright. And then as it comes around here, it's going to get darker right here. And then of course the top of the chair will be the brightest because the light's on top. I'm just generally just roughing it in. I'm not super worried. I'm just trying to get the general idea of what I'm going for. And I'll come in here and do these rods, poles. I'm not exactly sure the terminology for these. Bent metal rods. Pipe? I mean, if it gets thick enough, is it a pipe? And under here, I'm doing much less light just because it would be in the shadow. So the shadow's kind of casting down this way. But I'm still doing some light so that you can see that it's round. And then right here, I'll do a little bit of a harder light because that's maybe where the light hits before actually casting the shadow. You know, the shadow probably comes around like this. So one thing to kind of notice when I'm doing my lights and darks on these legs, these round legs, the light's coming down from here, this way. But I'm not just putting a white line right here. I'm not even putting like a faded white line like this. What I'm doing is I'm putting a white line right here. Now it's hard to see, but you can see that it goes gray, white, and then just barely gray right here. So this white doesn't go all the way to the edge. That gives it a much more round shape. And then I would do the same over here, but I'll add that in a second. All right, let's give this a bit more attention. So I kind of blocked everything in. Now I'm going to go in and really try to pull out some of those important lights and darks. Going around that whole top, it's all white. And then this cushion is mainly white. But down in here, we're going to get some more darks playing. Especially as this cushion comes into this area. And I'm kind of going over a little bit right here and in some other places, but I'm not too worried. I'll come back in and fix that. Mainly just trying to smooth out this area right now. This is like a funnel, so it's a very smooth transition. It's looking pretty good. I'm just going to come in here and lighten up this area a bit. And the Apple Pencil is awesome because you can really just be really light with it, just like a real pencil. What I might do, so just to kind of indicate that there is this metal rod running underneath, I'm just going to put a little bit of shadow right along that rim, really lightly. Kind of see it. Just kind of pops it out a little bit. So there's subtle details that really pop out the sketch, I think. All right, let's do this bottom piece. Oops. I ran over my legs. You can also do the legs and the actual cushion on 2 different layers. I did that last week. Actually, I did a lot of layers last week. But this week I'm just going pretty simple. So, similar thing on this bottom. Now, for this base, it's all going to be in the dark, but these 2 outer edges are going to get a lot of light from the background. I'm also trying to, I might just have to redo this pipe here. So I'm adding in that kind of reflected light that comes from the background. And then, down here it has a little bit of light. Same over here. Something like that. Alright, and then reflected light down at the bottom. And then let's go ahead and fix this top piece here. One thing I haven't really talked about much is the purpose of these chair sketches. I'm not trying to sell these chairs or make them. It's not for a client or anything. These chair sketches are purely for fun. So I take my time with them, It's not like I have to do 10 concepts for a client and have to pump them out really quickly, because you would not want to do 10 of these for a client. That would take a long time, unless your client just wants a pretty chair sketch, but most likely they want to manufacture and produce a chair. Alright, so that's pretty good. Oh, let's do this center cushion here too. So this is going to be pretty much all white, except maybe on the edges. Actually, I'm just going to make it all white and then fill it in. Shade it kind of individually. Oops. Alright, and then the cushion's curved a little bit, so I'm going to see a bit of shadow on this side. Coming across. And I honestly might just go in here and kind of pump it up. And then we're also going to see a little bit of kind of cast shadow on this side, this little edge, from this area kind of blocking some of the light. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's just go in here and add in a bit of dark to these pipes. So kind of like we did earlier. I'm not going all the way to the edge. can see that it gets lighter before the dark part. Gives a lot more form that way. And you can apply this to really any round part. So any corner that rounds over, any fillet. Do the same thing up here. Can really do a lot with just a little bit of pressure and the airbrush tool. All right. It's looking pretty good. I think what we'll do next is quickly throw some highlights on this guy. Not being super precise about it. I mean, this is fabric anyways. But just quickly going in and doing this main piece. I'll come in here and I'm not taking too much time to get this part right. You know, it's not really about this top sketch. Hey, that looks moderately decent. Okay, so now we'll add in the magic, the color. Super easy to do. Again, just select your layer, make a new layer underneath, and then we'll play around here. What do we want? We could go with that black hole look. And then what's this centerpiece? Maybe. Let's see what a dark color looks like. I'm just gonna choose any old airbrush will do. Just so you can see the color, turn this shadow layer to multiply. And then color it in. I was kind of thinking of doing the cushion in a lighter matches the legs. Could also do a cushion in like maybe a green. Do the whole thing in a green. What if we did the whole thing in a very like muted midnight blue? Kind of like that. It's kind of cool. And then we did these legs in a nice white, crisp white. So I can turn the shadow layer off now that I kind of know what I'm doing. Because if you try to select the color, it'll select all the layers of that color. So it would have given me a very dark blue because I was selecting the shadow. So again, if I would have made the cushion and the legs a separate layer, I could have easily colored them in both without having to go in like this right now and kind of finesse it. But it's not that big of a deal. It'll only take a few seconds to color in these legs. But if I wanted to change colors, that's where it gets a little more tough. So, you know, every chair is different. Some chairs you need to do it, sometimes you don't. I always speak to these renders as that they're always chairs. And, you know, this whole sketch render method that I do can be used for anything. It doesn't have to be a chair. It could be, you know, whatever you're working on. Toaster. Kitchen knives. I'm just gonna name random random objects. All right. Let's turn that multiply layer back on. Yeah, that looks really cool, I think. So the magic with this light and shadow layer that we did is that we can just duplicate it. And duplicate it, I usually do 3. And then what I'll do is I'll turn one of them, the top one, to overlay. The second one, color burn. Sometimes linear burn. And then the last one, I just keep at multiply. And I change these around a bit. Actually, let's see what it looks like when the multiply goes over. No, put the color burn over. I change them around a bit just to get a different feel. I play with these adjustments. Increase the contrast. And then I can just mimic that entire process for the side view. There's a little bit of, you can kind of see that I wasn't super clean on my lines and that the selection layer went outside the line. So that's why you always try to do that. You know, use that hard brush and then stay within the lines. But of course this is the side view, so I wasn't really being as picky with it. Alright. I might add in a little bit of texture to the fabric. I think that would be good as a next step. Let's just quickly do overlay, color burn, multiply, and then match it to what these are. So that's 63, 30, 60, 63, roughly. Does not be perfect. 30, 60. There we go. It's coming along. It's coming along pretty good. Let's do a new layer. And I love Procreate because it has already a bunch of options to select from. I'm going to go ahead and do maybe this Hessian? I'm not exactly sure how to say that. Just select white. Just come in here and a little bit smaller, I think. Oh, actually, let's select our layer right quick so that we don't go off, and then just lightly put that in. And then I'll turn it to overlay so it kind of fits in. I'll also do another one. I like to do, when I do these legs, I like to put a little noise on it. So I'll take a gray, I'll come in here and add a splash of noise to these legs. And then again, I can just take that and multiply it, take the opacity down if I need to. Add a little bit more there. Okay. One thing I might do, you always want to get your lighting layer right before you start doing all these other layers, because if I want to come back in and kind of finesse this shadow here, I kind of want this to be kind of like this. I'm just adding in another layer to do that. I should have done that at the beginning. Kind of have it so that these fabric layers are casting a shadow on top of the metal. But just coming in with another layer and doing that right quick. Let's quickly just add in those same things to the side view. Bit of noise. And then some of that fabric texture. That was way too big. Let's make that much smaller. Oh, I did it right on top of the multiplier there. Should have done it right here. I actually might turn up just a tad the overlay. Oh, we got to do the shadow. Let's do the shadow. This one's pretty easy, just a circle here. I usually do kind of like a cast outline shadow, so come in here with a ellipse, adjust it a tad. And then we need to add in the fact that these legs are kind of popping off the ground here. Hopefully that makes some sense. We can also do this. So I do that shadow layer and then come in here with another medium gray. Just take a medium airbrush. And color in that shadow. You can see where my mistake popped out again. Keep the shadow kind of loose. Doesn't be precise as the rest of it. I always come around here to the front of the leg. I always add this extra little bit so that it looks like it's sitting on the ground. And then what we'll do now is maybe come in with a little bit darker. And kind of pump that up. Pump it up like that. Come in here with an eraser. I like to give the shadow a little bit of variation here, so something like that. That helps it a good bit. I'll play around with the opacity just to kind of differentiate it from the chair. The legs are kind of neutral gray, so the shadow's clashing a bit, but it's okay. Alright, and then one of the last steps I do is I always add in a bit of just random highlights to the sketch. So I'll come in here. This just brings out a bit more of that contrast again. Of course, on softer materials, you want to have a much softer highlight. I might put this in just to pop these legs out a bit so they don't get lost in the shadow. add in I'll highlight on the cushion. All right, that looks good. I group it all. Oh, forgot this one. Messed up my layers here. I think this is the... Yeah. I'll put in a vignette box. I think a vignette helps tie in the elements of the sketch. Also, it's a great way to compose the sketch. Cleans it up a good bit. Just makes it look nice. So now I can take that vignette box and adjust it a bit. Just kind of fit what I'm trying to go for. Might make the main chair a bit bigger now. That looks pretty good. And then just erase. Let's add some callouts in too. Thinking we add something down here. Let's say it's just the callouts are almost not necessary. I mean, it's, again, this is more of a illustration compared to an actual design. But I add in the callouts because it's a great way to balance out the composition. You know, there's some empty space down here. There's also empty space down here, but I don't want to get too busy. But just being able to fill it in with something Makes the whole sketch feel solid. And then this will be, let's just say it's like stretch fabric or something. Stretch fabric? Maybe it should be elastic fabric. That sounds a little better, I think. There is this random dot. Must be the shadow, yeah. All right, there you have it. Another chair sketch. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what you want to see more of. Also, feel free to reach out with any suggestions for new tutorials or things I should do next. And yeah, thanks for tuning in if you made it this far. Bye.